So welcome to the APA PsycInfo Advanced Search webinar. The second in a two-part series, this 45-minute session is designed for experienced users who want to deep dive into lesser-known fields and search techniques. If you need more of an introductory session, we have another beginner search webinar scheduled for early April, followed by another advanced search session after that. And Marta actually can drop the link to the training page in the chat if anyone is interested in dropping off and signing up for the beginner search. You're welcome to do that. So first, a brief overview of what we'll cover today. We'll go over a few quick database stats, as well as what you'll find in APA PsycInfo. We'll do a quick review of APA PsycInfo vocabularies. And then we're going to cover a few featured fields as well. And that will be followed by the search demonstration. And then after the search demonstration, I will share some APA training resources with you, and then share how to contact us if you have questions after the webinar, as well as open it up for the Q&A session. So today's search examples will focus on APA PsycInfo, our biggest and most widely used database. But I wanted to share a quick definition for each of APA's research databases. So first up, PsycInfo, we have abstracts of over 5.3 million journal articles, and that includes book chapters, dissertations, and other sources, and includes publications from more than 50 countries. APA Psych Articles is our full-text journal catalog with PDF and HTML versions of more than 233,000 articles from the more than 110 journals that APA publishes for APA, as well as our affiliated organizations and publishers. APA Psych Books is our full-text book catalog with PDF files of more than 4,600 peer-reviewed books, including the APA handbooks in psychology and an extensive backlist of classic titles. The really nice thing about APA Psych Books is that the records are also indexed at the chapter level. So it's not just the book record, but all of the chapter level. And I believe there are about 68,000 chapter records. APA Psych Test is our database of summaries for psychological tests, measures, scales, and other assessments found in the literature. There are over 71,000 test summaries in this database, and about half of them contain information about the test content, the full text of the test content. So not necessarily everything that you would need to administer the test, but all of the test content itself. We also have APA Psych Therapy, which is our streaming video database, and there are nearly 600 therapy demonstration videos that show clinicians working with individuals, couples, and families. We also have APA Psych Extra. This is a database of what we call gray literature. So these are non-peer-reviewed but professional sources, and they include document types for things like reports, conference proceedings, and newspapers and magazines and things like that. So what will you find in APA PsycInfo? It's the only comprehensive yet selective index of peer-reviewed scholarship in the behavioral sciences that includes interdisciplinary and global subject coverage. Nearly 2,300 journals are currently covered, and it is updated twice weekly. As I mentioned earlier, it primarily consists of journal articles, book chapters, and dissertations. There are also a lot of other different types of sources in there as well. So the names of our databases, APA PsycInfo, APA Psych Articles, et cetera, lead some people to believe that they're only useful if you're searching for psychology or behavioral sciences materials, and that's not actually true. APA takes a broad interdisciplinary view of the behavioral sciences, so you'll find resources about education, management, nursing, law, engineering, and much more. I love a good word cloud, so this is a great example of the kind of content that we actually have in PsycInfo. So we have 3 levels of coverage for journals included in APA PsycInfo. We have cover-to-cover coverage for important core journals, in which we index both research articles and all other content like reviews and editorials. We have all articles coverage, where we index only the research articles. And then we have a 3rd level of coverage called mixed coverage. And this is what allows us to index interdisciplinary material. So for example, in a marketing journal, we might cover an article on consumer behavior, but we would exclude an article on statistical analysis of a sales campaign. So 99% of the titles in APA PsycInfo are peer-reviewed, and the 1% of non-peer-reviewed content is primarily the older materials. I like to think of this content as resources that have been peer-reviewed by time. Next up, we're going to take a little bit of a review of the fields that you'll find in PsycInfo. So when you search APA PsycInfo through a discovery tool or in combination with another database, you're typically going to see only a short list of fields that will be available. And this is due to the lowest common denominator, sort of that idea that there's only going to be certain fields that are found in any database. And so there are less than 10 of these fields, and they're fairly high level. But you can compare that to searching the database on its own when you'll have access to APA's more than 40 fields. So APA Publishing has put a lot of effort into creating each APA PsycInfo record, and we capture key pieces of information from many levels of detail. So this professional indexing process provides not only a comprehensive view of the resource, but also a unique opportunity for powerful and precise searching that's only available when you search APA PsycInfo directly and independently of other databases. So next up, we'll talk a little bit about the PsycInfo vocabularies. And it's important to understand the differences between these three types of descriptive vocabularies that are found in each APA PsycInfo record. So we have keywords, and these are the natural language terms that authors use to describe their own research. There's no standardization, so they can seem kind of random at times, but keywords may include the names of genes, medications, historical events, pop culture figures, and emergent terminology. These are specific elements or aspects of the study that the authors consider salient or important. So in this example, it might be brain tumor. We also have index terms, and these are assigned by APA staff according to the controlled vocabulary of the APA Thesaurus. And they are typically more general than author keywords, capturing the primary concepts of the research. So in this example, brain neoplasms, right, compared to brain tumor of the keywords. We also have APA PsycInfo classification codes, and these are even more broad, and they're designed to categorize the document by the primary subject matter or main theme. This framework is another APA standardized vocabulary to categorize a publication in a broad way. And so APA staff typically assign one, or occasionally you'll see two in a record. So you can think of classification codes like big bucket or umbrella categories. An example to illustrate how helpful a classification code can be, say that you're interested in research about drones. You can use the classification code for engineering and environmental psychology, which is 4,000, and this will limit your results to the realm of robotics. Or you could choose animal experimental and comparative psychology, which is 2,400, and that will narrow your results to the social behavior of bees. And so what it helps to do is eliminate noise that might come from results that you're really not interested in seeing, realms of research that you're not interested in. So with more than 150 available classification codes, it can be difficult trying to view all of them through a small widget on the search page. And that's why we recommend viewing the full list of classification codes on our website to find the ones that you want to use before you begin your search. So this particular slide actually has a list of classification codes. I did drop a PDF version of the slides at the very beginning of the presentation, and I will also do it again right before I start the search demo. Let me go do that actually right now, because we are getting ready to head into the search demo. So let me see. There we go. Okay, so now you should be able to see the PDF version of the slides in the chat. So next, we'll take a look at a few fields that you can put to work to help you find related research, tests and measures, funding sources, and who is doing research and where. So first up is citation. And APA PsycInfo includes more than 144 million cited references, and they're all in APA style. Many abstracting and indexing databases do not include references, so this in and of itself is a valuable part of PsycInfo. Moving forward and backward in time in the literature is a key research skill, and PsycInfo makes this fairly easy to do. In addition to cited references, showing what work was cited in a paper, PsycInfo also includes cited by references to show who has cited this paper in their own work. So it shows a subsequent research sort of more recently in the timeline. So tests and measures. Apart from our APA Psych test database, APA PsycInfo itself is a rich resource for information about psychological tests and measures. You can search APA PsycInfo to see how a test has been used, and you can also search for tests that have been appended to the article. And that appended concept is to show you when the test content is actually included in the full text of the journal article. The grant and sponsorship field. So grant information is included in the APA PsycInfo record as the author provided it in their full text. Because the grant information is uncontrolled, you will definitely find some variation. For example, well-known acronyms versus the organization's full name. So when searching this field, each word of any phrase is going to be searched on its own unless you include it in quotation marks that's required for exact phrase searching, which is something to kind of be aware of when you're searching this field. So there are actually several optional subfields of grant, and they are the sponsor, the grant number, the recipient, funding amount, the country of sponsor organization, funding date, and other details. So when you search the grant sponsorship field, you'll have access to all of the information in these subfields. Again, this is author provided, so you'll see some records that may have no information, some records that have a ton of grant information, and a bunch that are going to have somewhere in between. But this means that you can use these grant sources listed in the record to develop leads for possible funding sources. It's also going to allow you to search for a specific sponsor organization or a grant number to find related research funded by the same grants. We also have an author affiliation field. So the author affiliation data reflects the corresponding author's institutional affiliation and contact information at the time of publication. Searching the author affiliation field can show you what kinds of research are happening at a particular place, and by extension, revealing who is doing that research. So this field is not only helpful for researchers looking for possible collaborators or professionals who might be looking for experts to query, but it's also a valuable exercise for any students who might be considering grad schools and programs, potential advisors, as well as postdoc opportunities at an institution. Okay, and that brings us to our search demonstration. I wanted to go ahead and give you an overview too before we hop into the demo. So the goal with this live search demonstration today is to show you how to put the specificity of our indexing to work for you when you're searching for content, and how you can also use APA PsycInfo to find other helpful information that you might not expect to venture beyond subject searching. So the search demos today are going to show proximity search and truncation search syntax, using citations to explore related research, applying search limits and results filters, using the author affiliation field to discover where research of interest is happening, searching the tests and measures field for information about tests used in the scholarly literature, and using the grant sponsorship field to discover potential funding sources. All right, so let me hop out to the browser so we can begin the demos. Okay, you should be seeing my screen with APA PsycNet, which is where we're going to start our demos. And so our first sample search is going to be on proximity and truncation. So if anyone's not familiar with it, proximity searching allows the retrieval of database records with specific words that appear next to each other or near each other. And truncation will capture any plurals and other common word variations. So this is helpful for finding similar words or phrases without having to do multiple searches. And also with the proximity search, the order doesn't matter within the string of the command. So any word may appear first. I'm also going to point out too that the syntax I'm going to use on PsycNet may be different. The concepts that you're seeing in the demos here today will work on all 4 of our platforms, but you'll need to, if you're not familiar with how to do something, you'll need to kind of check the support, either check with your library and the librarians, or check the support information for your platform for EBSCO, Ovid, or ProQuest to see what you might need to do. For example, so the search I'm going to do here is child, and I'm going to use the asterisk. So that's the truncation symbol for PsycNet, and I believe that's the same one for at least 1 or 2 of the other platforms. I think one of the platforms might use a $sign for that. So that's why I'm saying you want to definitely check to make sure that you have the right operators when you're doing this kind of a search. So searching the word child with a truncation operator is actually going to try to capture results where you might have children or child's plural or childhood. So it's a really great way to, again, capture multiple variations of that word without doing separate searches. On APA PsycNet, the proximity operator is near, which needs to be in all capital letters, followed by a /, and then there's going to be a number after it. So the first one I'm going to show you is a near 1. And so this is actually the closest proximity limit. So the idea here is that you're looking for words that are one word away from or next to each other. So the word that I want to search in proximity is trauma. And I'm also going to use the truncation operator there as well. And so the idea here is that you're going to pick up, not only trauma, but maybe traumatized, traumatic. So anything in that realm will be picked up. And I'm going to go ahead and search in the abstract field for this. And you can get a quick idea of what comes up from here. So we have over 8,700 results. So let me go back. I want to show you what happens when you increase the proximity search limit to 2. So I'm going to edit my search. I'm going to change this to 2. So again, this is sort of, the words can be a little farther away from each other, right? So there might be one word in between and the order doesn't matter. If you'll recall, I searched the abstracts here, and on PsycNet, it'll highlight the match search terms. Because I'm not seeing anything right here, I'm going to show all abstracts, and then you'll see why these results are coming up. So you can see the highlighted search terms in the abstract. So you can see here too that it went from 8,700 results up to 1,100. And that's because you're going to have, makes sense you'd have more results where you've got words in between. So what I also want to do is I want to go back and I'm going to edit this search a little more and just kind of narrow it down. And I'm going to add a word experience here. And I want to search for experience in any field. Let's just see what happens. Now I'm down to 3,200 results. So this might be a great place to start. Again, if I show those abstracts, you can start to see some of the differences here in the in what's been highlighted. But the other thing I want to point out too is the abstract on PsycNet anyway is also going to include something called an impact statement if it actually exists in the record. You need to click into the record to see that. But if you're scrolling through results and you're not seeing something highlighted, at least on APA PsycNet in the abstract, or you're searching the abstract, you can open up the record and you'll probably see it. You should see it in the impact statement. But just to kind of give you an idea of what this particular search brought up here, the child near to trauma proximity search. So you'll get things like experience of childhood trauma, traumatic childhood experiences. You got experience of children with traumatic brain injuries, trauma on child emotional health, trauma exposed children, psychological trauma for children, children experience traumatic stress, children after trauma, and children's traumatic experiences. So that's just a few of the examples that when I did the search that I was seeing come up. So you can see it's a pretty robust set of results, but also very, very targeted. And I also want to point out before we leave this search demo and set up for the next one is that when using the proximity operator, we recommend a max limit of 4 for semantic purposes. I mean, you can certainly do near 5 or near 6, but then you have to wonder if the two words, child and trauma are appearing 6 words away from each other, what does it actually mean? So generally near 1 to near 4 are good, good sort of limits for the proximity search. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so I will go ahead and do our second search, which is also going to be on APA PsycNet. And this is going to be a sample search where we're going to explore related citations. So this might be the problem of when you do a search and you don't have enough results and you're trying to find more related research and boost your bibliography. So I want to actually stay with this search. I'm going to change here to time cited. I really like the ability to sort my results by time cited. And so we talked about references a little bit earlier. So on the results page here, as well as inside the record, but you can open this up and look at these cited references, and that's going to allow you to look backward in time to see what research the authors cited in their paper. So sometimes it takes a little bit of time to load, but you can see there's 54 citations here. And if you scroll down, you've got links too. So it links out to Google Scholar. It'll link to an APA PsycInfo record if the publication exists in the database. And then you'll also see too the cited by counts here, right? So this one was pretty highly cited by 2,478 papers in the database. This one here, 1990 article was cited over 11,000 times. So this is a great way to kind of show some of the pioneering research. You can discover it very quickly when you look at the sorted by time cited. I also want to show you on this page too, some citation management tools. So you've got, hide all the abstracts. Whoops. The references I'm trying to hide. There we go. Okay. So you can select one or more of these, and then you've got the ability to export citations. You can email them. You can print them. In APA PsycNet, you can add multiple items to your list that way. If you want to save individual results, there should be similar user interface activity to allow you to do this on other platforms as well. And then up at the top, if you want to save this search, you've got the ability to do that up here, as well as create a permalink to share. And then you can also set a search alert from here as well. Okay, so we did mention the idea of this cited by references. So we looked at the cited references. Now we'll look at the cited by references, and just to kind of show you what this looks like. Cited by. And so it tells you here up at the top the citation. And again, you have those same citation management tools. If you're selecting, you can also export, email, print, and add to your list from here. But then again, similar to the cited references, you've got the links here, as well as the DOI that takes you to the publisher's site. You can look at the abstract, you can look at this paper's references, and of course you can add it to the list from right here as well. Okay. So another really interesting thing about cited references is that we've got a cited references search tool. So over under search on CiteNet, you can look at cited references. And this allows you to find a paper relatively quickly and sort of get a quick beat on the references, how many times it's been cited. So you can search by author, by title, by source, by year, one or more of these fields. Obviously, the more specific you are, the better. But say you're not quite sure what the name of the paper was, but you remember two of the authors' names and the year. Whoops, that did not work. My bad. Let's try another one. Let me do, so I know if the author's name is Soto and the paper was 2004. And if I scroll through here, I can decide which one of these was the paper I was looking for. It actually had something to do with spatial attention, so I see that it's right here. That's another nice feature too. You can put in a couple of words that might be relatively unique to a paper, but then you can very quickly get to see who has since cited this paper in their work. So that cited references tool can be really helpful as well. I see a question about sorting by the cited by via Ovid platform. I don't remember right off the top of my head. I do know that some of our vendors have that, but while the data in the database is the same, the user interface for each platform is governed by that particular company. So Marta, I'm not sure if you are able to take a look and see if Ovid has that. I'm sorry, the cited by sort on the Ovid platform. I think so, but if you could double check, that would be great.
I'm checking now.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, so next up is search number 3, where we're going to look at applying search limits and filters to the search results. And we're going to go into ProQuest to see this. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select only PsycInfo. It's going to let me, it's not going to let me uncheck everything. There we go. Okay. Select just PsycInfo, and I want to go to the advanced search form. Okay. So the idea when you've got, search limits and filter results, this is going to be, perhaps you've got the problem of, the opposite problem. Instead of not enough results, you got too many results. And so the idea would be, how can you quickly refine your results if you've got too many to work through? So that's where the search limits and the result filters come in handy. So these are fields, and then again, the different platforms will have different options about which fields you can apply as search limits in the search form versus search results. Filters on the search results page, but this all comes out of the idea that these are fields that you can search. So in this case, I want to search for Alzheimer's. I'm going to go ahead and do this search in anywhere, but the other thing that I would recommend, I'm just going to give you an idea of what this looks like. If you search Alzheimer's anywhere, you get 81,000 results. So one way that you can modify your search is to go, let me see, I'm gonna go back to my search. And if I'm gonna go try to see how this might appear in the APA Thesaurus, right, as an index term, because the idea behind the index terms are that anything that relates to index term, sort of there's human decision with the indexers, the APA staff that index these articles, and they will pull, they will tag these records with that, even if the author doesn't specifically mention it. So Alzheimer's seems kind of a pretty elemental example of that. It just allows you to be very confident in the search that you're getting the right results. So if I go into the thesaurus and I search for Alzheimer's, and I can see here it's called Alzheimer's disease. So if I open this up, I'm going to select it and scroll down to add it to my search. And now it's basically saying that I'm searching for the index term or the subject headings Alzheimer's disease in the index term. So even though it says anywhere, what it's telling me here, because I added it from the thesaurus, is it's saying search for Alzheimer's disease as an index term. So now you can see instead of 81,000 results, I've got 54,000 results. So that could be good or bad depending on how you're searching. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead because I'm trying to winnow down the number of results. And then I want to go ahead and modify my search to apply a few limits. So I'm going to check peer reviewed to start. I'm going to scroll down here, and maybe I'm only wanting to look at journal articles right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do journal articles. So one thing that's nice about selecting this particular record type, you can obviously select more, is it's going to exclude dissertations, right? So if I'm not interested in seeing dissertation work right now, if I just want to look at journal articles that are peer reviewed, that's a really quick way to do it. And then also, I might want to go ahead and maybe filter by methodology. Okay, so longitudinal study. And so that might be really helpful, you know, if you're looking for a lit review, or maybe there's also a follow-up study if you wanted to specifically select that. So the methodology might be good to select up front as well. Let's go ahead and hit search and see how that filters out our results. So now we're down very quickly to 4,230. So a lot smaller than we were at before, still maybe kind of kind of a big search result set. So let's go ahead and see what we can do on the results page to filter it further. So one thing you can do, obviously you have the ability to filter by date. So maybe that's the first thing you do, is maybe you filter by the last 10 years or 20 years, or however you want to do that. Maybe you're only looking for earlier research. So that's another way to filter it. You can, we talked about the classification code, so that's another great way to filter this. So for Alzheimer's, maybe you're looking for something related to neuroscience, so you might filter it by neurological disorders and brain damage, or if you click more, you'll see all of the classification codes that are used here. Or maybe you're looking for something more related to the realm of care. So you might choose home care and hospice, and there's 92 results that come out of that search. So again, another very useful way to filter down sort of by those large umbrella categories. I'm going to go ahead and choose neurological disorders in the brain. So another way to filter it might be the publication title. So if you open this up, you can, perhaps you might discover journals that you didn't even realize existed in here. But if I focus down to the very top one, Journal of Alzheimer's Disease, I get quickly down to 524. So if I wanted to further refine my results, I might go and add additional subjects or index terms. So if I open this up and click more, if I scroll down, maybe I'm interested in middle age. You can also exclude subject terms on some interfaces. We're just going to choose include here. Maybe I want to include middle aged, and maybe as I'm going down, I also want to look at only studies that have to do with magnetic resonance imaging. And if I apply those filters, I get down to 192 results. So, you know, you can, again, further refine your results if you want. But another thing that you could potentially do as well, if I go back up to the top and I'm going to say I want to clear a lot of these filters, I'm going to clear the publication, I'm going to clear middle-aged, and I'm going to clear magnetic resonance imaging, and maybe I'm going to stay with this neurological disorders in brain. But I want to go ahead and modify my search to actually go ahead and look at the affiliation field. So as I mentioned earlier, this is a great way to discover sort of, where research on your topic is happening. So I'm actually coming at it from a little bit backwards. I've got my topic and I'm trying to see what's happening maybe at a school in this particular realm, or you can just look at a particular institution and see what's happening there. Maybe I'm aware that there's a lot of research at Dartmouth happening on Alzheimer's. So I'm going to go and modify my search. And the reason I'm going to do that, I'm going to apply it as a field because there are sometimes in the interfaces, you can go down and you'll have the ability to filter by affiliation. So you can apply it as a filter. If it's not, there's a filter. You can search for it as a field. So we will modify the search. And I'm going to go ahead and put Dartmouth in here. The affiliation field, as I mentioned, because it's author supplied, it's not standardized. You've got Dartmouth College. Somebody might have abbreviated, with COLL and not put, the EGE on the end of it. So I'm just going to try to search the main piece of that and see what comes up. And this, of course, will bring up anything that has Dartmouth in it, right? It might be the medical school or different schools. But let's see what happens if I search here. So right now I'm getting 7 results. So, again, a different way to sort of filter results and narrow them down. But if I'm a researcher looking for a collaborator, or I'm looking at potential grad schools and I'm thinking about Dartmouth, I might be able to go through here and see who's doing research, what kinds of research they're doing, and maybe get some leads on potential advisors, right? So when you scroll down to the record, you've got all the author information and you can see their affiliation, and then you've got their contact information as well, so you can reach out to them. So again, that sort of affiliation field was basically sort of converting APA PsycInfo as a locator tool for places and people. So it can be really helpful under certain circumstances. So your platform may vary in its presentation of search limits and result filters, but because the underlying data and database structure is similar, I encourage you to explore that user interface, and you can see what's possible and the best way to do these kinds of searches on your platform. Okay. Not seeing any other questions, and it looks like Marta answered Angie's question about Ovid, and it does not have the option to sort by cited by, which is unfortunate. So yes, definitely recommend that you contact Ovid and ask for that, ask for that improvement. So next up, we're going to search for the tests and measures field. Full disclosure, I was going to do this on EBSCO, but we found out this morning that EBSCO is having a bit of an issue with APA account. I don't have access to all of the database information that we normally have. So I'm going to actually switch back to CiteNet to do that. I apologize to EBSCO users in the crowd, because I was going to use that to show you an example on your platform so that everybody can see something that looks familiar. But let me go back and do another advanced search. Okay. So using the tests and measures field, one thing that you can do is search for a known test, and we'll do that first, and then we'll follow that with a topical search for a test. So you're looking for a test related to your topic. And then if you find that the test content is included in the full text article, we'll show you places where you can look for it. So I'm looking for a specific test called Coworker Trust Scale, and I'm going to choose the tests and measures field, which I just realized I can't. There we go. Can't do it. Okay. All right. So when you open up the results page, you're going to see results that are going to show the history of use and development for this particular test. Let's scroll down. Let's see if this is this the one I want? You know what? I'm not sure this is actually the one I want. A little bit different. Let me see. Coworker Trust Scale Test and Measures. Let me see if the one I'm looking for is here. There it is, Improving Marketing Success. Okay, we're going to open up this record, show you the test and measures field. You scroll down. So you can see right here, and all of the tests and measures that are listed here, it looks like there are 6, 7, and 8 of them. All of them have the word appended. So that means that the test content for each of these measures is actually in the full text. So we are actually going to take this in a moment to do our next search. But before I leave, I just also want to point out too that if you happen to have psych tests, there's a DOI link here and it will go directly to the psych test record if you have it. And if you don't have psych tests, it will actually still show you a description and a summary and some very basic information about the test itself. All right. So now if I'm going to go and look for a specific test, I'm going to use this appended trick and go back up. I'm going to do a different search. And I'm going to search for minority stress. And I'm going to search for this in the keywords. And I'm going to use, appended. And I'm going to search for that in the tests and measures field. So this search is going to pull up anything where the full text exists in the full text. I'm sorry, the full text of the test exists in the article, and then the articles are going to be related to minority stress. Okay, so I've got 9 results here. And the one, if I scroll down, the one I'm looking for is development of the gender minority stress and resilience measure. So this seems like an interesting record because I'm, interested in how this test was developed. I open up the record and scroll down to that tests and measures field. So all of the tests and measures listed in the article are listed here. There are 2 that appear in the full text of the article. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go search for them, right? So we're going to go search for the mini social phobia inventory and the gender minority stress and resilience measure. So take this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up and go back to my results. And I'm going to edit my search. Okay. Let's see. If I limit the APA full text, I think I can do this from here. Okay. So I meant to actually limit to full text earlier. If you'll recall, we had 9 results before, now we've got 7. And the idea behind that is if we're going to go and search the full text of the article for the test, you want to make sure that you have access to the full text. So now I've got access to the PDF. I'm sure I've got an article that has it. So where was that one? All right. So the best way to do this is to go into the full text HTML because you can very quickly and very easily search it. So what I like to do here is I like to use Control F, and I'm going to search for gender minority. And remember, I'm looking for that test. And I see, again, all kinds of instances on SiteNet where it's highlighted. And I also see over here on the left, there's an appendix. So if I click that link, it takes me down in the article, and I can see here in this appendix all of the information about the test items and the scoring and everything I would need to know about the test itself. Again, it may not have everything you need to administer the test, but it tells you everything you need to know about how the test was administered in this particular study, as well as the test item. So the other test I wanted to look for was, let's see, it had something to do with, I think it was mini spin. So let's try looking there. Mini spin. So it's interesting here too, because it's called mini spin here, but it was a social phobia inventory. So sometimes you have to kind of do a little bit of work to find it. But the reason I wanted to show you this particular example is that you saw all that information a moment ago with that really long test in the appendix. This is the entire amount of the test content for this mini social phobia inventory. So it's basically 3 questions on a 5-point scale, and that gives you everything that you need to know about that test. So you can see that there's kind of the amount of test content can also vary widely, and there are different places to look for this. So we found one test in the appendix. We found another one in the methodology section, and another place that you can check is tables and figures for test content. So just to do a quick recap, in this particular search, we used psych articles, the full text, after finding a test in PsycInfo, and we used the word appended to search the tests and measures field to find the content that would be available from the full text journal article. And that's because our indexers add that appended label as a note when the test appears in the published article. So if it's not appended or if it's not included in the full text, then you will see the name of the test and you can actually contact the authors for more info. Okay, and finally, our last search demo is going to be on the grant sponsorship field, and I'm going to do it on the Ovid platform. Selecting just APA PsycInfo. I like to use the multi-field search. Okay, and so this searching the grants and sponsorship field is really helpful when you're looking for a funding source for a project. And it could also provide clues about potential sources of bias in research due to sponsorship. So one example I wanted to show you here was, say I'm doing research on nutrition. And if I want to find out what kind of research Nestle has funded, I'm going to do a search for that. I looked at Nestle's website, and from their website, it says we sell everything from baby food and bottled water to cereal and healthcare nutrition products. So that's a lot of nutrition products, right? So you want to consider the possibility of bias in research that Nestle might fund. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing, doesn't mean it's a good thing. It just means that you want to be aware of it, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to search for nutrition. Type. I'm going to search for nutrition, and I'm going to search that in the subject headings, which is, again, the index term from the APA Thesaurus. And I'm going to search for Nestle in the grant and sponsorship field. And so I've got 22 results right here. So again, just to get an idea of a way in which a topic and a grant sponsor can tie together in an interesting way. So let's go ahead and open up this first record for impact of early childhood nutrition. If I scroll down in the record, I can see there's a lot of information in this grant sponsorship field. So apparently there were many grant sponsors, and you can see right here, the Nestle Foundation. This one actually has a date, other details. This looks like, I'm not quite sure what this would be. Maybe that's their program name, I'm not quite sure, but then it also lists the recipients here. So if you're interested in more information about that, you might potentially take this other details and maybe you go search the Nestle site or contact someone at Nestle to find out more information about this program if it's still around and if that's a good fit for your particular research project. So one thing I want to point out too with the grant and sponsorship field is that, as a reminder, because all of that information in that field is go back down, is author provided. This National Institutes of Health is always a big one. So you've got research that will be reported from NIH, as well as National Institutes, plural of health, and I've also seen National Institute singular. So one thing that you might do for the grant sponsorship field is create a search for National Institutes of Health or NIH or National Institute singular of health and save it. And then that way you can pull that up from your saved searches in your account on your whatever platform you use, and then you can combine that with any other search that you want. But then that way, if you're searching for it, you know, you'll be more likely to get a lot of results. So again, you might, if you've got like what is it, the National Science Foundation, so you might do that for like NSF or National Science Foundation, and that would ensure that you're getting as many results as you could possibly get in the database for that. So, and then any of this information here, as a reminder, you can take all of that to the sponsor's website to search for more information. So this was just the demo to kind of show you how this interesting field can reveal lesser known research sponsors, and then the micro level details that the authors provide allow you to discover grant programs that you might not have been aware of that might be a good match for your research. Okay, you can see we're getting close on time here. So let me go ahead, and I've just got a few slides to show you. And also, again, if you need to leave early, the information I'm going to cover is all in the slides, the PDF that I dropped into the chat earlier. So you're welcome to take that and go about your day. Let me switch back to my slides. Okay. So APA training resources to help you look like an expert. Actually, first up, we want to cover a little bit about what's new. I know some people really are interested in this, so we wanted to sort of front load this a little bit. The APA Thesaurus was recently updated for winter 2023, I believe within the last few weeks. That actually includes 63 new terms. So if you're interested in more information, you can find that information on our website. Click on the link for the slide. The APA Thesaurus is actually being updated about 3 times a year now. It used to be every couple of years, and so now it's nice to see that it's happening much more frequently. And then at there's the reload that happens in the, I'm sorry, the update that happens in the fall will include back mapping of all of the index terms released for that particular year. We also have something called the APA PsycInfo Research Services. So this is a tool that provides weekly research notifications that are tailored to your interests. And this is available to anyone who gets their APA PsycInfo access through their institution. So it's not available currently to individual package subscribers, but you sign up with your institutional email address. And so this service provides one-click access to full text for journals, books, dissertations, conferences, PubMed, and more. And we actually have several semester special training webinars. We've got 2 more for this fall that Marta is actually doing. So if you're interested, you can follow the link a little bit later in a moment. We've got a webinar schedule link elsewhere in the slide deck, and you can follow that and register for that if you're interested in attending and learning more. Our APA web team recently revamped the topics portal on apa.org, and it was a major 6-month project that involved more than 80 pages. And it was designed to create a gateway to our best content on the science of psychology and its real world applications. So we encourage you to check that out if you're interested. And then we also have a roundup of the top 10 APA journal articles of 2022. Our APA Monitor staff sort of details those in a Monitor article. So kind of interesting content there. I mentioned we have resources and training for APA databases. This is sort of a link-heavy slide, but we've got a search help and training center, which includes links to search guides for APA databases. And we have something called a quick reference guide, which I'm pointed out here, but I'm going to go over in just a moment. We've got database training tutorials on our YouTube channel. You can go to our blog for news and tips, search tips, and other information. And then here's the link to the APA PsycInfo webinar training schedule. And if you're interested in documentation for the databases, we've got field guides and record structure documentation, as well as the coverage list for PsycInfo, Psych articles, and Psych books. The quick reference guide that I mentioned, this walks you through how to search APA PsycInfo, and it includes screenshots and captions that explain the basics of effective searches. So it includes a review of Boolean operators, as well as use of quotation marks for exact string searching, using the asterisk to replace 1 or more characters to help capture those word variations for truncation that I mentioned earlier. And again, like I said, it's asterisk on some platforms, maybe different on yours. So the quick reference guide will tell you exactly what you need to know about that. The quick reference guide also covers definitions of key fields, and as well as searching the APA Thesaurus, and then using certain search filters, how to navigate, managing your searches, and more. And these search tips will also work for APA full text for Psych articles and Psych books databases as well. So we have a direct link to a PDF version for your platform on our website. So whether you're using SiteNet, EBSCO, ProQuest, or Ovid, there's a quick reference guide for you. If you're a librarian and you're interested in some pre-printed copies to hand out, we actually still have some professional copies that are available free of charge. They fold up accordion style and they're a bit larger than a credit card. And as long as we have them available, we're happy to send them to you free of charge. You can just email us at psycinfo@apa.org, specify your platform and tell us how many you'd like to receive, and we'll send them out to you. For our librarians, we've gathered our training materials and support information in one place that we've called the Librarians Resource Center. And for training materials, you can click on the training center link in the middle. Also for librarians, if you would like help promoting databases on your campus, our marketing team has created a toolkit for that. So the assets within the toolkit, including task-focused video snippets, will help your users easily find the content that you need, as well as learn tips for optimizing their search results. If you're interested in anything related to APA style, our APA style team can help. We've got a fantastic website that includes reference examples and a lot of other information. They've also got a style blog where they post information about sort of explaining the very nuances of style guidelines. It's very well written, I think. My colleagues do a great job. And then we've also got an APA style newsletter. And so it's a monthly email that has tips as well as a Q&A section, updates, and other announcements. We have resources that highlight APA Journals content, which can be helpful for students exploring ideas for research papers and projects, as well as researchers. We've got a APA Journal Spotlight, which is a free e-newsletter with summaries of research published in our journals. And then we've also got something called the Editor's Choice, and it's a bi-weekly email subscription that also has 30-day access to the APA Journal articles that are included in there. So this is a relatively new offering by APA. So it's a very interesting way to find out about new research. And finally, if you have questions, we're here to help. I'll open up the Q&A session in just a minute, but if any questions arise after the webinar, you can reach us through the APA Publishing Learning Commons, which is located at on.apa.org/APA Databases Help. This is a self-service portal that we have where you can search for an answer to a question, or if you can't find what you need, you can use the web form to email our training and customer engagement team, which is primarily Marta and I, with any questions that you may have for APA databases. So I'll remain online for a few minutes to answer any additional questions that you may have. But aside from that, I hope this training has been helpful to you, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.